Hello everybody, it's Paul with Fruitful Trees. I am so excited about today's visit. There's a fellow I've been watching on YouTube. I love his videos and they're quite unique and they should definitely have more views because he has such a great viewpoint. You know me, I'm all about natural. I eat natural. I got a natural beard and I just love everything natural. And I haven't met anyone who's studied, learned, and is actually putting into practice growing fruit trees as natural as possible here in nature, growing natural and creating a natural environment within city limits, so to say. He has a 10-acre farm here in South Florida. It's a little north where I am, so he has a little bit more cold tolerance issues. But since he's growing naturally, you'll see today how he deals with that and how some of the trees through his experimenting survive that and some don't. Now, in his videos, he doesn't really prefer to be on camera. He wants to focus on the gardens and the trees and everything else that's growing. So in his videos, he does it a little different way. So this is why we're going to be doing a little bit different way today. We're going to go walk around with him and he's going to be talking and you're going to hear him on the camera, but we're not going to, 90% of the time, we're not going to show him. We're just going to show what he's pointing out and you're going to hear him in the background there. Same thing with me. I'm going to be behind the camera, but it's wonderful what he's doing here. And I encourage more people to listen to his practices and what he's doing here. He makes a good amount of sense and there's a lot of wisdom applied here. Especially, I love what he talks about the use of certain manures and how to use nature at its best. And, you know, this is what I do. I do the manure. Those of you that know me and watch my channel know that's how I take care of my trees and so on. But he's taken it to a whole nother level. He has, you know, he stopped mowing his lawn years ago. And his place here is just so unique and different than any other place I've been. And the amazing thing is he's spending less money or no money on drugs and chemicals for these trees. And his trees are producing. And he's doing a lot of things here from seeds. Now, he does have 10 acres, probably one of the bigger properties I've ever been on. And he has a lot of room left. But the thing I love about this is he's experimenting. He experiments to see what works. He's learning and he's open to learning and trying new things. But he's trying to be as natural as possible and as close to nature as possible. Here's some of the animals he has. He has horses and donkeys on his property. Now, what he does is he sells seeds and fruit. That's his goal. And he's certified organic. And through his YouTube channel, I'll put the link below the video, he's going to be selling trees and seeds and, well, actually seeds and fruit he'll be selling. And if you have questions about his practices, please email him on his videos. He has a good amount of videos and I like his style. I like what he's doing here. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to it. So without further ado, here he goes. This is Eric and this is his YouTube channel. Link is below. So we're going to walk around his property and talk about some of the unique ways he's growing his trees. Okay, everybody, here we are today with our friend Eric. He has 10 acres here. Okay, so he's going to show us around here today. So go ahead, show us where you got here.
So this was our biggest achacha tree, and it's currently fruiting. It fruited last year, and
oh, wow. How old is this tree?
I would say it's about 10 years. I bought it from Flying Fox Fruit about 8 years ago. It was about 5 feet tall, about the size of one of those branches.
How many achacha trees do you have?
Probably about 400.
400, and so that's why you originally started it.
Right. They're all different sizes, though. But
so I know in your videos you take people around your land here and you show people your stuff. Do you just plant everything everywhere, or do you have a system?
I layer. I try to plant like hundreds of one thing, and then I go back and plant hundreds of another thing, and then I go back and plant 100 of another thing, and just keep doing it. And eventually you get to this point. I try not to step on stuff. I used to put poles in here so that people could see where the trees are. So there's like a egg fruit seedling. There's a Inga spectabilis there. There's an Inga spectabilis there. There's a black sapote there. And then it's just everywhere. But now I plant stuff in together. It's all seed grow. mostly. So that obviously is not. This is was a grafted tree that was about 6 inches tall. But I take these, and this is fruited in 5 years without being watered, and should produce more fruit next year. It's a canistel called Delightful.
Where'd you get that from?
I got it from Garden of Delights.
Okay.
Instead, I believe.
Delightful canisteel.
It's very good.
And it's fruited in 5 years without any water.
Right. I put it on water so you could see this. I connected all the grafted trees to drip at a year and a half after we planted these grafted trees. And it didn't really make a difference. So I stopped doing it. In fact, it slowed the growth of our cha-cha trees down because it's the wrong pH. And that's how it is. Here's a Garcinia macrophylla. This probably is so alien to you to see this growing next to this. But this is how trees like to grow, especially these jungle shade trees from Ecuador and places like that, Bolivia. Rainforest trees, basically. Here's the one that doesn't have the stuff growing next to it, and as you can see, it's a lot smaller. It has some that's getting to it, but here's a producing quaimuc tree.
Oh, wow.
We have 2 varieties of quaimuc. Both of them produce fruit. One's a grafted tree from Excalibur, and this is a seed-grown tree. And this was all lawn. And this tree was like this big when I planted it here and put it right in the lawn and never watered it. So we do not water when we plant. The water's polluted, unfortunately.
You just rely 100% on the rain?
I just rely on nature being able to grow the tree in Florida because they seem to do a good job without us from the parts of Florida I've seen. I mean, these trees got huge one way, and it wasn't with us like clearing the debris and mowing it. So here's a seedling quaimuc. It's my favorite fruit. I'm definitely planting a lot more of these.
And how long did they take to first fruit from the
This
grafted
one,
one?
I had this tree for 10 years. I moved it here. And
the grafted one you moved to?
Seed. No, the grafted one, 5 years from it was about this big, about 10 inches tall. Grafted tree.
Okay. Wow.
And then through here I have Encephalitis planted. Encephalitis is a food, so ancient indigenous food. So they're like intercrop through here, the little palms. And there's some other fruit trees I have planted in here. Some Apuntia.
So the only thing you mow is this path through
Yeah, and I really don't like doing it, but it does look nice. And I've noticed the mowed path is like the worst the worst soil in the place. So here's a alisapo. Do you know what that is? It's an alisapo tree. It looks very good. And here's a seed-grown Kamito, Jocko Beach.
So of your star fruits that you have here, I mean star apples, your Kamitos, how many would you say are grafted versus seed grown?
I don't have any grafted trees. All of them are seed grown. I have the Juicy Pearl star apple from Australia, which is doing quite well. 2 years from seed. It's pretty big. It's around this way if you want to look at it.
Have you any fruits on your star apple?
Not yet, but they're getting close. We've only been here 6 years. This is an Inga ice cream bean. I'm not sure exactly which one, but it's flowered for the first time last year. These haven't flowered yet. My tree that I planted in Brevard County, it flowered quickly, but I was putting manure and watering them daily and flooding it with manure, which speeds up growth. really what we're after. Here's a Garcinia tree. I think it's
Now, was that from a seed you planted or just natural?
it's a seed I planted. That's macrophylla, and I haven't fruited macrophylla yet.
So there's a lot of seeds throughout here that we can't see yet that are just really way small, right?
There's all kinds of stuff. This is a mandarin orange. That's a what is it? It's a Garcinia MB, Garcinia livingstonii. This is an orange, sweet orange. This is a cutting of a juicy pearl star apple. There's right there is some other cuttings. All the little stakes, I've started taking them out. This is a Plinia inflata. Yeah, it's like that's how the whole place is planted, and it's people think it's like, well, why isn't everything the same height? It's because it's one person over 5 years sourcing the seeds, planting the seeds, and they're hard to get. They were hard to get before COVID, so finding enough quantity to plant out was a real challenge. This is a torch ginger I just divided this year.
Now I see some of the trees here are big natural trees that you left here, or you didn't take anything out. How does that work when
I
you
don't
first
believe
came
in
here?
taking trees out, and you're not really allowed to with being organic. You're not allowed to clear trees out to be certified organic or biodynamic. So I just don't believe in that unless the tree is fallen over or that's just something I'm against. It's too much. People worry about the native ecology, but there's no native ecology left here in Florida around us that I can see. There's some parks on the water, but for the most part, it's mowed lawn for
Now,
miles.
when you say you're organic, is you certified organic?
We're certified organic, we're certified biodynamic, we're certified real organic project.
Is that for your own personal use, or is your goal to sell the fruit eventually?
We sell fruit.
Okay, so that's what you do. You sell the fruit. That's why you're growing.
We sell the fruit, we sell the seeds. I want to just strictly be a seed farm because the fruit is too stressful for me. I worry about people not liking it, and it's like impossible to please people when it comes to food 100%. And the seeds are easier. It causes too much stress because I really, I bought our first fruit farm or food forest. We never got to the point where I could like harvest hundreds of pounds of fruit because I sold it when it was 5 years old, and then this one's just at 6 now, so it's not even in full production. But I started planting these aeroids, Philodendron maximus, on all the palm trees because I'm obsessed with anthuriums and philodendrons and monstera. So I've been doing that. But through here, it's lots of Lux garcinias and citrus. There's like a citrus here. There's a cha-cha there. There's a garcinia over there. And then there's a bunch of little Lux garcinias and different citrus, which they're very hard to see. But I've marked some along the trail.
Now tell me about your bananas. I see there's bananas planted all around the place, but not too close, but they're out there.
I'm trying to divide all the bananas that are dividable as they come. So this year I divided 65 pups, and last year I divided 90. So I'm hoping next year I will have like 150. So I just can't stop planting.
Are your bananas particular varieties?
There's mostly ice cream. I have a couple of others, but I don't think I've spread them around.
Did you just pick ice cream on purpose,
No,
or is that just what's
six
available?
different types at my first food forest, and I had like manzano and all the other ones that people grow. But the one I liked the best was the ice cream banana, and it's the one that produced the best for me. So that's the one I figured I might as well take the one I like.
Okay. What's this going on here? You want to talk
This
about
is
that?
manure. This is what I do on a daily basis. It's a 50-pound wheelbarrow of manure that I clean out the stalls and dump here. It's like manure, pea, pine shavings, and hay, all organic approved. We know the source of the hay, we know the source of the wood shavings, we know nothing's ever been done to it. So I can use it. The Biodynamic Association had a problem with me doing this. They thought I should have a huge pile or a couple of big piles, and rather than just doing it every day into the orchard floor, because you have to wait 4 months after applying the manure before you can harvest food from that fruit tree where you put it. But they've since decided I could do this, so that's a good thing.
And so you say you plant this every day, just how, like next to a particular tree or just between trees? How do you do it?
I used to spread it around, throw it into the system because I thought it needed to be spread over the entire orchard floor. But I've found that if you give the trees a big chunk of manure a few times is better. But if you could do it at least once a year, that tree is going to produce quicker and produce more fruit than a tree that doesn't get it.
So this, in your opinion, is by far the best fertilizer, the safest.
This is
and
the only
healthiest.
fertilizer. This is the only true fertilizer. All the rest of them are posing as fertilizers. Manure and pea. That's it. Wood and grass. That's it. It's that basic. I have to do all the biodynamic stuff, which I truly feel is completely unnecessary. And but I do the biodynamic horn manure, and it did help. And they make me grow all our seeds that I grow in pots in biodynamic compost that we make.
Now tell us again here, because none of this is mowed, and if I would remember, you for the first couple of years you did, then you stopped.
Right. Well, the trees just weren't growing. The trees were dying, and we had 100 Rollinia trees that we planted in here and didn't water them for the first year and a half, and then we connected them to water. And no, I flood irrigated them, but just it would drain off right away. But this pH of the soil was or the water was completely wrong for the Rollinia trees, and they just started dying instantly. And it took me too long to figure out what it was. It took me having 2 Rollinia trees that I never watered, the only 2 that survived, that made me realize, oh, it was the
and the same thing when it grows its natural plants in nature, that helps the pH of the soil and helps everything balance out.
Well, it's because of the plant growing above ground, you have all that carbon that's growing below ground. So carbon and life neutralizes pH. So you don't have to even worry about it. You don't even need to check the pH or do a soil test if you focus on soil health.
Now, modern farms, they say, or modern gardens, they say, you don't want anything growing like around a mango tree or anything around a tree, because I've heard you say many times, nothing's robbing the tree of nutrients in nature if it's natural and you leave it be itself.
I don't care what tree you look at growing here that was here by itself, or if you go into the woods, none of the little trees are growing by themselves. And take this finger lime. I planted this. This is a seed-grown finger lime that was planted at 1 inch tall. Growing next to allelopathic Biddens. It's just all those studies were done on market gardens, and the plants usually died because they got smothered by the weeds. But trees can grow through grass.
So trees can grow through the weeds. So here's this tree. What tree is this, you said?
That's an intermediate. And then since we dry farm, if you remove all the weeds from around that tree, the tree would die. Because the roots hold all the carbon, 8 times its weight in carbon in the soil. So you're removing 8 times the water that's there without the root if you take the root out.
So, okay, that's a great point. So you're saying if you have a tree and you remove the weeds, now this is opposite than what everyone else is saying. I understand. That's why I'm here, because you're successful at what you're doing. You're saying if you take the weeds out away from the tree like they tell you to do in typical farming, that is not good for the tree.
Well, if you're growing naturally, dry farming naturally, it's water is a scarce resource. So if you remove all those weeds, you're going to remove all the roots, and all those roots are holding water 8 times their weight of the root in the soil for that tree. So, and you're lessening the chance of water being able to move through the soil by removing the roots because it's less aerated. It's just the whole thing of the citrus groves, and it's so ridiculous. And they just continue to do it. They mow and they clear strips where the trees are. But that just causes compaction. You can't, and then they have to apply calcium because they can't cycle water and calcium by themselves. So it just doesn't make sense to continue to do that. It's just, we know what causes compaction, and it's no living root and mowed ground. So, especially in sand. This is a cacao.
Now, in terms of how much sun trees need, you let everything grow natural here. And some trees have more sun than others. This is a cacao tree growing. It's kind of a shady area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if this didn't have shade in this area and was growing somewhere else, it would grow different, or does it?
I don't think it would grow different, but if you didn't have a lot of protection with this cover when it was a young tree, because these are seed-grown trees. This is a seed-grown cacao that I fruited from my first property. And so it fruited within 6 years. Or 6 years. Fruited within 6 years from seed, and it's not being watered. And it just works. Nature works. Nature knows how to grow trees.
Yes.
They don't need our help. We just stand back. So you plant the little seedling when it's like, I planted this one, it was 6 inches tall, 2 months after it was started from seed, directly in the orchard floor with the roots. But this stuff protects it from the freeze when it's young, and it protects it from the sun. But if you tried to grow this tree in the sun on a mowed area and remove the weeds from around the tree would dry up and die. It wouldn't make it.
That's for a seedling. What about a grafted tree? Same thing?
Grafted trees come at a disadvantage because they're started incorrectly from the nurseries, period, with chemicals. And so they don't know how to communicate with the soil life. So you have to send grafted trees to boot camp, which is basically peeing on the potted plant, adding some manure to the top of the soil, watering it and spraying it with lactobacillus, throwing some milk on it, just getting it used to indigenous lifestyle, basically, and not chemicals, and then plant it. But grafted trees you can do in the sun. It depends on what the tree is. My citrus, I don't worry about planting in the sun. But cacao is very delicate. These are all seed-grown cacao in there. You probably can't see them, but they're little tiny cacao back there, over there. There's a bunch in there. We have about 40 cacao, all seed started, 2 different types. They're just a year in the ground, these trees. This is a achacha. There's a bunch of achachas and Luke's garcinias in here. Here's a Nochlea latifolia, the African peach. And the fruit looks and sounds delicious. And growing here with no water, in the weeds, no damage from the 31 degrees, and looks great. But when cattle are fed the leaves and the fruit of this plant, they excrete tramadol. So synthetic opioid. Isn't that interesting? I make tea out of the leaves. There's a kumquat. So now we're starting to move into the sun a little bit more. And the syzygium and the bananas, the cha-cha, they seem okay with growing in the sun. This was a nursery bought tree.
So from seed, yeah?
No, this is a nursery bought tree from Pine Island.
So this was grafted, this one, when you got it?
They don't graft their
Yeah, that's what
cha-cha
I'm,
trees.
yeah. So
They're seed grown, but they're started with chemicals, and they come at a disadvantage. You're better off doing a cha-cha from seed. All Garcinias from seed, I believe. So there's like, you can see little citrus popping up in here, and there's a couple over there I see. I see 3 that I planted right next to each other, not even knowing I was on top of each one of them. And
so like you say, in nature, it doesn't matter distance between trees or not, they're just going to do what they're going to do, right?
right. So then here's an achacha. This is a nursery grown tree. This is where I'm starting to like give everyone some manure.
Now you have, what, 10 acres here?
Yep.
So if you had a quarter acre, can you apply the same principles to it?
Yeah, well, nature works the same way everywhere.
Well, you were talking about septic tanks in small yards across South Florida. So that's not necessarily part of nature, right? So
Manure is nature, whether it's ours or not. We kind of pollute all of our septics with the chemicals we use, so and the pills that everyone takes. But so that's unnatural. But the manure and the urine part is natural. Yeah, I don't understand why that's not talked about. That's like really odd to me that a state can have so many towns and cities on septic when we're on calcareous rock, which everything goes right into the water. So that's why it's not a good idea to water. That's one of the reasons why I don't water, because it's a chance of pollution here for our organic certification, unfortunately, even out here. So here's some little here's how I plant my trees now. So this is a jackfruit, and
so that's a jackfruit.
this is a starfruit, and this looks like a passion vine. Which,
and of course, since you're not mowing, you don't have a chance of mowing over these small trees because you're just letting them do their natural
the
thing.
mowing just destroys everything. I mean, it compacts it. It's just common. It really is just common sense. If you're like driving something on it, that's like urban environment. So it's our agricultural systems we treat like they're highways. And sand you can destroy. If I mowed all this, all the soil aggregation that I built up would just be gone within 3 months probably. Just wash away and go up into the atmosphere. Here's part of my vegetables, because I like grow my vegetables for the house in
So
my manure.
Kale. There's your kale.
This is arugula. This is a
so
kale.
you grow your vegetables in the horse manure for your personal use in your house.
Right. And on these, I'm going to do them all near the house because they're spread out all over the place. And
Now, do you agree it's important when somebody grows like kale here like this, or some of these other greens that they're going to eat in manure, they need to investigate and know where the manure is coming from before they grow?
Yeah, you can, and you also people are afraid to use manure, but we're organic certified. And if I was to sell these vegetables, if I took the raw manure and I mixed it into the ground and planted vegetable seeds in it, in 30 days I could sell that as certified organic, and it would be considered safe for human consumption. Because E. coli dies when it's heat and cold, so it's just working our way over to this. That's what they're afraid of, the E. coli.
What about, another question is, so a lot of places like my yard that has a septic tank, they have a drain field. And you're always taught not to plant over the drain field because you can clog up the septic drain field. What's your opinion about that?
Well, they're going to tell you in 15 years your septic needs to be replaced. So and it'll take that long for the tree to destroy your septic. It's probably not a good idea, but some plants are like gingers with shallow roots and bromeliads maybe are fine to plant in there. I wouldn't plant vegetables in my septic just because I have other places I could grow it. But I planted out my first food forest in over a septic, and it was a 20-year-old septic, and she's lived there 5 years, and we had it 5 years, and it's huge, giant trees planted right over it, and not a problem. We have huge, giant oak trees growing right next to ours. Well, I know those roots are going in it, so I don't think it will hurt it, to be honest.
The drain field, you don't think it will hurt it?
It might slow it down, but it's going to be considered. They're going to tell you need to replace it in 15 years anyway. So you'd have to pull your trees out. So that would be the only problem. So this is a Garcinia gardneriana. It's got lots of fruit on it.
Oh, wow.
And it's better than the lemon drop mangosteen, which I'm trying to like.
Well, what about if a house just didn't have a septic and they just went on compost?
They have to know what compost is. So
yeah, but if somebody like myself knew what it was and we
Right.
just didn't use our septic, we were just using the manure in the compost.
Yeah,
we didn't need a
manure,
septic at all.
compost your manure. I can't endorse that. I've never done it, but I know people do it, and that's how you get nutrients in your food is
Yeah.
with manure. So it's just we have to do it in order to fix our the state of Florida. But I mean, they say that the septic is causing all the issues in the bay. It's not that. It's the septic with the chemicals and there's a cha-cha tree.
Another
And here's a
cha-cha.
little guava planted there. This is like everything is like planted and you can't see it until it starts popping up. Guava.
And how long before these seedlings start popping up where you can notice them?
It could be anywhere from 1 year to 5 years. Depends on how slow they are. This is a ubijay, sweet ubijay, big fruited ubijay. Here's a this is where this is a really bad area. You could see where I mow the path. It's all white sand. This is what happens when you mow your lawn. And you can see the grass never grew here, but this was a lawn for 50 years. And these oak trees started to die. You see the branch there. There was another one over there. And that was my main reason to try to fix things. And so now I have like little seedlings planted in here. Lots of achachas. We have 100 not achachas, Luke's Garcinias. Here's a Luke's Garcinia, and there's some cacao. Cacao with plenty of inflata. I think that's what that is. Same there.
All right, everybody, there it was. I told you how unique and amazing it was, and I think there's a lot of wisdom behind this, as I said. And the way he does it, you know, he just shows on his what's growing here. He stays behind the camera. That's his style. That's what he likes to do. So that's why we did that today. But I'm here in this place, and we have to remember this. What he said on the film is really important. This is the worst time of year right now for fruit trees in terms of the season. It's right before spring. If I'm going to come back here in the summertime, which I plan to, these trees that haven't died back from the cold are going to be loaded with fruit. And we're going to see that. And but this was a great time to come and learn about the grass, about the trees, and about what he's doing. And we're going to see the best and the worst and come back here and compare it. But what he's doing is working. And he's doing it without spending a lot of money or time on chemicals and chemical process. Now, he's certified organic. You know, I'm all for organic, I'm all for natural, but certified takes to another level because you have accountability watching over you. And, you know, it's really important to him that, you know, that he's as natural as possible, clean as possible, and he keeps his trees as safe as possible. So like I said, there's a lot we could learn. And I suggest if you're not following these practices, but you're interested in them, at least experiment with a certain area of your yard, at least, and then compare and see what works best for you. But I know we all have our own belief systems and do things the way we want. So whatever you decided to do out there, go to the link below the video and check out his channel and watch some of his videos. and keep growing.